Hello, Education 1030 students. So it is Wednesday morning, February 8th for me. I don't know when you're watching this, but I am giving you an update of what we're going to be working on this week. But before we get into that, I want to just recap really quickly what you were supposed to be doing that is due on Thursday. So we are working in Chapter 3 this week, which is managing time, energy, and money. Okay, so you should have completed your managing time, daytimer discussion board, and completed your Chapter 3 quiz. Okay, so that was last week. And remember, just a reminder, our content opens on Friday and closes the following Thursday. So this week we're going to be diving into Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is actually probably one of my favorite chapters that we do in this course because it's really going to help you discover how you learn. Okay, learning something you've been doing all your life from preschool on up into high school. Well, it's important for us to really think about how we learn best. And this may be something that you've done in school before and you've learned and you maybe took some assessments to see what type of learner you are. So if you have done that, some of this in the text is going to be familiar to you. But if you've never really tried to take these assessments and actually see how do I learn best, then you're in for a real treat because I feel once you figure out your preferred learning style, it's really going to help you succeed and you're really going to see a difference and change in how you study and how you learn best. So if you haven't been reading the chapters, I really encourage you to do that because I know I provide you with lots of learning resources, right? So I give you PowerPoints, I give you reading organizer and outlines, and then I give you videos. But there are things in the actual chapters that I want you, that you can't get in the learning resources provided, that I will test you on. Not only on your quizzes, but on the actual exam itself. So these are things I want you to think about. So there are going to be some assessments in the chapter, okay? So you're going to be looking at VARC and what that stands for, that Learning Style Inventory, which is going to actually be part of your assignment this week. You're going to be looking at Maslow's theories of Maslow's theory. You're going to be looking at the Bandura and Schlossberg theory in your textbook. We're also going to be looking at multiple intelligence and the MBTI. What does that stand for and what that means? So whenever we're trying to figure out how we learn, we really have to start with the learning theories. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It really goes back to Abraham Maslow, which is a psychologist, and he had this theory, and you will find this in your chapter 4 on page 82. He developed this pyramid, right, if you will, this theory of it almost looks like a triangle, it's a pyramid. And it's a hierarchy of needs. So Maslow says that in order for you to learn and to be your best self, right, and to be completely happy with who you are and where you are in life, you really have to be able to meet certain needs. So at the base of, and in figure 4.1, you're going to learn more about this on page 82, like I said, but in figure 4.1, it gives you that figure or that picture, that visualization of what the pyramid looks like. So if you're a visual learner, that will help you out. He really talks about how you have to meet your basic physiological needs before you can move through different processes of learning, and self-actualization is really the highest form. It means you are okay with who you are, you're actually happy and you're content. We have to meet those physiological needs. Next on the pyramid is your safety and security, right? So you have to feel safe and secure, that nothing bad's going to happen to you. You live in a safe environment. So once that's realized, you can move up the pyramid to the next one, which is love and belonging. Okay, and this is a big one for a lot of us. Okay, so this has to do with a lot of your relationships, starting at a young age with your family. So you have to be able to feel love and belong somewhere before you can move up to the next step. And that's where you're going. When you feel love and belonged, you will be able to have some kind of self-confidence, and self-esteem is built that way, right? A part of community, collaborating, not only with your family, but with your other relationships at school, your boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. And then at that point, you can move to the highest level of the pyramid, which is self-actualization. So this is just where you will be able to be comfortable with who you are, be happy, be content, like who you are as a person. You've got that confidence that you can accomplish anything. You can learn anything. You can do anything that you want to do if you believe and you work hard within those parameters of your talents and skills and your strengths. So that's what the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. So you'll be learning about that. You'll also be learning about Bandura's theory of social learning, which he also was a psychologist, or if you will, a researcher in psychology. And he really believed that we learn best when we observe others. So think about this. If you are say, a visual learner, right? And you need to do something in your house, or you need to work on your car, you need to fix something. A lot of people go to YouTube. You watch a video. That video walks you through, you get to observe how that person does it, and then you can try it for yourself. Okay, so he said that you observe others, that's how you learn best, and maybe that is how you learn. So students have to find a way to become motivated in school. So sometimes you do better in classes where you can see how things are done, like maybe watching videos, watching the instructor do it, and then you do it. So that was his theory, and he called that social learning, right, where you learn from your peers or for others by watching them. Think about a toddler or a baby. They learn by watching adults around them, right? They pick up on things and they start to do it. Then you have Knowles' theory of adult learning. So he was really saying that adults are really self-directed learners, right? They're very independent, they make their own choices, so they can research topics. That way they can further our understanding of different subject matter. And they have past experiences that's going to help them with future learning experiences. They have real world experience, so they can relate content to different things. Adults usually too are ready to learn, right? So you're here in college because you're ready to learn, you want to get a degree and graduate, right? So you're ready for this experience. Adults normally are. And that you recognize the value that you need to learn so you can gain these skills you need for whatever major career choice you want to do. And then, that is going to be your internal motivation why you're here in college in the first place. And the last one is really the Schlossberg's theory of transition. Now, this theory is really cool because it really talks about how we learn through big transitions in our lives, right? From those big experiences. So some of the big transitions that people go through their life is a big one that most of us are in right now, where you graduate high school and you move on to college. Okay, that's a big transition for many people. So this is a learning experience for you. Another big transition would be when you graduate college and you move into a career. So that's going to be a big transition. Another one is when you get married and you move out of your parents' home, right? That's a big life transition. Another one would be when you have your first child. So these are things that we need to think about, right? Because we can learn from these big transitions and experiences in our life, and we can take that experience and move forward with other things in our lives. So the chapter also talks a lot about, different types of assessments. Now, what you're going to be doing for your actual assignment is you're going to complete something called a VARC online assessment. There's a link here, but I did want to mention there's also the same VARC questionnaire inside of your textbook, and it starts on page 84 and it will end on page 87. Now, even if you complete the online assessment, so when you click on it, it's going to take you here. Okay, so you'll see it's just a questionnaire. It's asking you to read the question and then how would you respond, right? It tells you to leave anything blank if it does not apply to you. We actually have some really neat ones in the textbook, so I try to encourage students to really do the one in the book. It starts on page 85 and also on 86. So even if you choose to do the online assessment for VARC instead of your textbook, I do want to point out on page 86 at the bottom, that's where you're going to tally up your score, right? That's what we need you to have in order for you to complete your assignment. So you'll look on page 86. So in the online assessment, if you do it, it's going to give you results of where do you fall as far as what type of learner you are. So V stands for visual, A is for oral, which is like you're listening. Then you have R, which is reading and writing, and then you have K, kinesthetic. Now, it's sometimes students kind of will be two, okay? So that's called a multimodal learner, where you're more than one type of learner, and that's okay. But what we're looking for is to find out what type of learner you are through this assessment. Are you mostly visual learner? Are you oral, where you like to hear lectures and that's how you learn best? Or are you reading, writing, where you do really well with reading chapters or articles or whatever the reading sections are, and then you like to write out? Outlines also work best for those types of learners. And then you have to think of K, kinesthetic, as you're more hands-on. So you do really good with practicing and applying, so there's applications, so math or science, or there's learning skills in labs that you have to do. So those are things to think about. So what you'll do is once you complete, so if you're in the book and you're doing that one, you're going to total up on page 86. At the bottom, there's a table. You're going to count how many V's you have. Okay, so within the 16 questions, you will add up how many V's. You'll put the total under that in the table. The same for oral, read, write, and kinesthetic. On page 87, it's going to interpret your results for you, okay? And it's going to give you some strategies depending on what type of learner you are. So your preference, if you're visual, on 87 in table 4.2, it kind of gives you some strategies. Okay, if you're a visual learner, what should you be doing? So you should be using underlining your notes with colors, graphs and charts and symbols and videos, and visual representations are really your friend, okay? So that's an example of some of the strategies it's going to give you. It also gives you strategies for studying if you're an oral learner, if you're reading right, and if you're kinesthetic. So what you're going to do after you take the VARC assessment and you compare your results and you look at the study strategies on page 87 in the table, I want you to complete this worksheet. Give it a second to load, sorry. So in this worksheet, what you're going to do is you're going to list all the courses you're taking this semester. I do also want you to include our course, Education 1030, which is the college experience. There's an example here for you. So what you're going to do is to list all the classes you're taking this term. And based on the results of your VARC inventory, you're going to try to figure out what type of learning style your teacher is. So what's their teaching style? And then what's your learning style? And we're going to see if you need to adapt, okay? So what we're going to do is look at the first example so you can get an idea of what I'm asking you to do. So if you'll see, the first class is psychology. You're going to tell me, how does your instructor teach for that class? Now, I want you to think about if you're taking an online class, maybe you're in a DVC, which is a desktop video. So that just means you do a lot of your classes either through Zoom or Teams, right? And then there's the in-person. So think about how your instructor's relaying the material to you. How are they teaching it? So in this example of psychology, the teacher uses PowerPoint slides with lecture. So you're going to tell me what they do, and where does that fall under? Well, PowerPoint slides would be visual, and then the lecture is considered auditory or oral. Now, the next section you need to tell me is your learning style, right? So are you reading right? If you're reading and writing, which is what they put here, that's not really matching up with the instructor's teaching style. So that means it does not match. I put no, and then I'm going to have to put a strategy to adapt. So here's the strategy or an example they gave you. Read the chapter before the lecture, take notes during the lecture, and review notes after class. So that's a wonderful strategy because your learning style does not match up with the teaching. So it's important for students to adapt, meaning you're going to have to use some strategies to help you be able to get the material, to understand it, to learn. So that's why I told you on page 87, really pay attention to the table because it's going to help you figure out strategies. Okay, these are just a few examples. There's more examples that you'll learn throughout doing this lesson and reading the chapter, but this table is a really good reference for you on strategies to adapt based on what type of learner you are. Okay, so remember, you could be multimodal, you could be more than one. So if you're more than one, I would like you to put it in the box where it says my learning style. So that's your assignment. You will also see that there's the Dropbox. I always put that link there for you. And then you have to take the Chapter 4 quiz. Now, keep in mind, you can take the quiz as many times as you would like during this window of time. So this Friday, February 10th, the quiz will open and it will close on February 16th. So you have that window of opportunity to take the quiz multiple times. There's also that reading organizer. I always tell students, utilize this. This is going to really help you when you are studying, not only for the quiz, but remember, we're going to have an exam over the first unit. So that means that you're going to have to utilize these for study tools, and it's really going to help you because it's going to outline and pick out the most important parts of Chapter 4. Let's go back to learning resources for a second. Okay, I also put the PowerPoint slides for you. I'm not going to open it because I'm kind of talking through this with you, but be sure to use those, and they do mirror Chapter 4 in the textbook as well. So another thing I want you to look at in your textbook is the MBTI, okay, which is up here. You'll see it. That's called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And this is really well known, and it's really a good assessment because it's kind of a personality inventory, if you will. So this just means that, when we looked at the VARC, it was really assessing how you learn best. But when we look at the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, it's really looking at your human interaction with learning. So it's going to see what your preferences are. So I really want you to, it's going to look at your basic personality and your characteristics and how they relate to interactions with peers, maybe with your classes, and it really also looks at your personality type and how that plays a role in your type of learning. So on page 89 in your textbook, it's going to go into the different types of personalities and preferences. So look at table 4.2 because it's going to discuss that a little bit further. It's also going to give you, like in the book, it's going to give you examples of different strategies so you can take advantage of this assessment and take advantage of your characteristics. Play it off as your strengths. So look at that as well. The strategies I was talking about for depending on the different type you are is on table 4.3, which is page 90. So make sure you look at the table at page 90 because this is going to really help you and give you some study strategies based on your characteristics or your personality. The next thing we're going to look at is multiple intelligences. Multiple intelligences was developed by Howard Gardner. Okay, so you may be familiar with this, you may not be. So he made a theory that humans have multiple intelligences, right? So he argues that students have different abilities, and they develop these abilities and they measure all different types of forms of intelligences. So there's 8 types that Gardner developed. So you've got verbal linguistic, that means you like to read. You have logical mathematical, this means you're really good at problem solving, you like numbers. You have visual spatial, this means you're really good at taking things apart, puzzles, maps, charts, really good at fixing things, mechanical mind, right? Machines, those sorts of things. Then you have bodily kinesthetic. This means that you're really good at dancing or acting or drama or sports. You also have musical and rhythmic. And this is talking about not only being able to sing, but playing instruments and being able to write music. You notice different pitch and rhythms. Then you have interpersonal. And interpersonal is talking about you have a really good understanding of other people, right? You're good at leading people, so you're a really strong leader. You are good at mediating conflicts. And you have a good understanding of people as a whole. Then you have intrapersonal. Now, intrapersonal is not like interpersonal. Intra talks about you have a high level of understanding of yourself. You're a very strong, original thinker. You come up with original ideas. You're grounded in who you are as a person. Then you have naturalistic. Now, these people love to be outside. A lot of times people that are naturalistic go into preservation or conservation. They really like being outdoors. So there's a multiple intelligence inventory on page 92 and 93. So I'd like you to do that assessment as well. And then on page 93, you're going to score how many marks you have for each section of intelligence. And then it gives you results, and you look at those and you see where you scored the highest. And that is going to be the intelligence that really suits you best. Okay, so chapter 4 is a wonderful chapter. It's really going to let you dive into different types of theories, but also let you take different assessments so you can get an idea of your learning preferences and really how you learn best. So that is what I want you to do this week. Remember, if you have any questions, I can meet with you. You can email me. We'll meet via Teams. Just reach out if you need help with the content or you need help with anything in the class. All right, guys. So remember, it will be due Thursday. Okay, all the due dates are there for you. Well, until next time, guys, take care.